All right, today we are going to look at the tissues, what we call histology. And the first thing we need to understand is that there are four kinds of tissues that we need to be aware of. We have epithelium. Now, what does epi mean? Epi means on top, okay? So this means it's tissues that have nothing above them because they are on top, like our skin. There's nothing above it, okay? All right, we'll talk about all these individually. The next thing is connective. The connective tissue is underneath, and it connects your epithelium to the next level called the muscles. Okay? The muscles. So your connective tissue is your dermis. Got it? And things like your cartilage and whatnot. All right? And some of the fat cells. Are you with me? All right. Everything between the top and the muscle. What is the function of the muscle cell? It's to move your body. Either to move your arms and your legs or to squeeze the food down your esophagus, stomach, and small intestine. Fair enough? So that's what muscles are used for. And the last type of cell or tissue is your nervous tissue, your nerves. They have a very specific function. Send a message. Your nerves either send sensory messages, ow, that's hot, or a message that says, hey, get your hand out of there, you dummy, okay? And somewhere in between the incoming, ow, that's hot, and the outgoing, get your hand out of there, we have our brain and our spinal cord, which are called interneurons. What does inter mean again? Between the incoming and the outgoing. Incoming sensory, outgoing motor. Okay? That's where the decision is made. Yeah, that's hot. Get your hand out of there. Or, no, that's not so hot. You can leave your hand there. Okay? All right. 10-4? That's how we do it? All right. Let's take a look at the first category, your epithelium. All right? Your epithelium comes in three varieties, three flavors. Okay? You have cells that are flat. Here's your nucleus. And you see they are attached to a basal membrane, and then underneath that is connective tissue. But what is above this? Nothing. Okay? See? Up above it? Nothing. Okay? What do we call these? Squamous. Squamous cells means flat. All right? Okay. Now, we have another kind of cell, and that cell is not flat, but more cube-shaped. It, too, is attached to a basal membrane, a bunch of connective tissue, but what's above it? Nothing. But notice, these are flat, squamous. These are square. These are the cuboid cells. Make sense? Okay. And last but not least, we have another set, and these guys are tall and thin. Nucleus down here, still glued to a basement membrane, which attaches it to the connective tissue underneath. And again, what's up here? Nothing. That's why all three of these are called epithelial. All right? Okay. Now, let's talk about specific.
Did you say what those were called?
Oh, sorry. Columnar. Yeah. Columnar. Got it? We simply take the word column and add an AR at the end to make it an adjective. All right? Okay. Cool beans? Like a column on a big mansion. All right? Okay. So, now that we know where these are located on the surface, now it's time to designate where we would find these and then talk about a few others. All right? Now, simple squamous, because it's fairly flat, is it hard or easy for things to go through it?
Easy.
Easy. It's easier to go through one cell than 50 layers, right? Okay. So, when you have one squamous layer, we call it simple squamous. Simple means you've got one layer, all right? So, let's draw a quick simple squamous scenario. Bunch of little flat cells, and look, they're kind of making a circle. And now remember, out here, connective tissue. But inside there's nothing. We call that the lumen. So this would be found where?
Capillaries.
Capillaries. So capillaries. Your capillaries are the smallest blood vessels where we send out nutrients and pick up waste. We send out oxygen and pick up CO2. And it's easy to go through one thin layer. Guess where else we find these? In our alveoli, which are the little sacs in your lungs. Because again, if I only have one layer to go through, isn't it easy for oxygen to come in and CO2 to go out? And that's what we use for that. 10-4. Now let me ask you a question. Is this a good thing to make your skin out of, one thin layer? No, because just putting on your clothes and taking them off, you lose 10,000 cells. Now, if those were living cells attached to you, wouldn't that hurt? You'd be bleeding also. Do we bleed when we take on and off our shirts and pants? No, we don't. Because guess what we have when it comes to your skin? Instead of one simple layer, we now have another layer and another layer with, your nucleuses, and another layer of these flat cells. And here's the cool thing about these layers. I'm kind of exaggerating, but these layers here are now called stratified. They're called stratified because there's more than one layer. And the cool thing is, at the bottom, this is where they're born. They're born here, okay? This is your stratum basale, right? And as they move up, they are actually dying until they get to the top, and the top few layers are dead. The top few layers are dead. This is why you can lose them and it doesn't hurt. Okay? I mentioned in class, when you have a bloodhound, searching the woods for a missing child or for, the perpetrator that got away, what is that dog sniffing for? The cells that fell off of that person's body and are laying on the ground. You and I can't even see those cells, but those dogs have such sensitive noses that they can smell that and go in the woods. Got it? And retrieve the lost child. Are you with me? As long as they know what the scent is. Why? Because every step you take, you're dropping thousands of cells. Alrighty? And they land on the ground, and the dog knows it's here, not there. That's the amazing thing. Alright? So, where am I going to find this? Stratified squamous.
skin.
In your skin, so we don't bleed every time we take our clothes off. Where else?
Mouth.
In your mouth, because when you're chewing your food, isn't that scratching along the inside of your cheeks? Well, all of your cheek cells are dead. That's why when somebody says, here, let me do a cheek swab, are you bleeding? No, because they're just gently taking the dead cells off. Okay? Fair enough? Good? Okay. So remember, on your test, I'm going to be asking questions like, where would I find these types of cells? Okay? So what I would say you might want to learn is that these stratified squamous cells are for protection against abrasion. And abrasion is scraping. Okay? Like scraping inside your mouth. Or inside your esophagus as the food goes down. How are we doing? Hanging in there? Okay, good. Now, these cuboidal cells. These cuboidal cells can also be around a special kind of tube. But instead of flat cells, now we have these big square-looking cells. These cuboidal cells. With their nucleuses. Okay? And again, connective tissue out here. And what's on the inside? It's hollow. This is your lumen. And these happen to be kidney tubes. That's the kidney tubes. Okay? And what is the function of these kidney tubes?
Filter?
No, the filtration actually happens like this. Your glomerulus is made like this for filtering. Oh yeah, how about that? Let me make sure I put that in there. What is the function of the simple squamous? The simple squamous. And that is for exchange
and filtration.
And filtration. Gas exchange, nutrient and waste exchange, and filtration. Okay? Where we filter out the urea, okay, in your kidneys. But these are kidney tubes that are after the glomerulus. We'll learn about that when we get to the kidney chapter. So these are for, this is for absorption and secretion. Okay. And both of these things, we reabsorb actually, the nutrients before we pee them out, and we secrete out the waste. Okay? So that's what these thicker tubes are used for. All right? Now, last but not least are the columnar cells. Of course, these columns, is it one of them or two of them? One set of columns, right? So what do we call these?
Simple,
okay? Simple columnar cells. Now, these simple columnar cells have something special on their surface. They look like this. They stand up straight, like the bristles on a brush. Okay? They are called microvilli. You see, your intestines are made of this, and it's all twisted up. And then these are also, okay, made into what we call villi. We'll see that in the digestive chapter. But on the surface are little tiny finger-like things, but they're stiff, all righty? And what's the purpose? What do you do in your intestines?
Absorb your food.
Absorb nutrients. Okay? We absorb the nutrients in the simple columnar cells of your small intestine. All right, but what is the purpose of these little guys? Let me see if I can demonstrate for you. Let's say that this little thing is a piece of food. Got it? And as long as that piece of food touches the surface of my intestines, I can absorb pieces off of it. Are you with me? Okay, so what if my surface was flat like this? Let's count. How many seconds does this piece of food touch my hand? 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, maybe 5, right? Okay, but if my surface has this microvilli, now how long does this touch? 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5. See how I'm going? 6, 7, 8. See, it's taking me longer because what does this do? The microvilli increase surface area. Got it? The more surface area we have, the more contact between the food and our cells, so we can grab pieces off that food. 10-4. How long is your intestine, your small intestine?
Really long.
Really long, yeah. For human beings, about 27 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine 27 feet worth right here, okay? When we dissect the fetal pig, we're going to find that the little fetal pig, that big, has got 22 feet. It's amazing. All right, everybody cool? So where is this? Small intestine, all right? Okay. But you see, there's another kind of cell, another kind of columnar cell. I'll make that one green. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But look at how it looks. It's wide at the bottom, thin at the top. Wide at the top and thin at the bottom. Wide, thin, wide. Okay? Because of that, where it's thin, where it's thick, I can have a nucleus. But I can't have a nucleus here, so it's pushed up here. And this one has been pushed down, and that one's been pushed up, and that one's been pushed down. Because of that, even though it is columnar, I can't spell today, columnar, it's not like this. It looks like you got high and low. Well, that's not stratified. It's not stratified. It's pseudo-stratified. Fake stratified. Got it? They're actually next to each other, only, it's wide and narrow. Got it? And because of that, they have their own name, pseudo-stratified. Now, these pseudo-stratifieds have something on their surface as well, but it's not little tiny microvilli. See how this looks like a lot longer? It flows like hair in the breeze or like seaweed on the tide. Alrighty? These big things here, they're called cilia. And cilia, unlike a brush with stiff bristles, it moves. Cilia moves, okay? The purpose of cilia is to move something across the surface. Alrighty? Well, we find this in our trachea, which is the windpipe. Pipe. What do I not want to breathe in and have go all the way down into my lungs?
Dirt,
debris, dust, bacteria. So we have mucus on the surface to trap it, and then cilia push, all of that up so you swallow it. So you're swallowing a bunch of mucus with dirt and bacteria in it. Don't worry, nature is very nice. Number one, you don't taste it because it's behind your tongue. It's behind your taste buds. Got it? You don't have to taste that mucus. And it goes down into your stomach where the stomach acid takes care of business. Okay? But we don't want that stuff going down into the alveoli. Okay? That's the reason smoking is so bad. You're literally putting particles of soot, from the burning cigarette, into your alveoli. When you coat the inside of that alveolus, that nice lining here, if you coat it with a bunch of soot, can I exchange gas? No, okay? And that's why we don't want you to be smoking. Does that make sense? All right. Even the left-handed cigarettes. We also don't want you to be working in a coal mine without a mask, because those coal miners got black lung because the coal dust lined the inside. And if you worked in a cotton mill, you got what's called brown lung because the cotton dust got in there. But all of them are going to lead to you having COPD. Got it? Which is what?
Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease.
That's right, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. I can't get the air to exchange because I got a layer of gunk in between the air and the blood vessels that are trying to say, hey, give me that oxygen. Okay? All right. Cool beans?
Cool beans.
Let me make sure that this is the only ones we needed to know. Yep. Okay, so that's your 112s. Don't turn it off yet. I'm going to do the next one.
Okay.
Okay? So let me erase this, and then we'll do our connective tissue, shall we? All right.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about the rest.
So, forgive me as I try to quickly erase this stuff. All right, so we did our epithelium. Now it's time for the connective. That means there's no top, no bottom, no left, no right, because it's in the middle of everything. All righty? The first one we need to know is the areolar connective tissue or loose connective tissue. So let's do it. Areolar or loose connective tissue. All right, first things first. Where is this? This is your dermis, under your epidermis. This is also around all of your organs. It's loose, but it holds your organs in place. It's loose, but it keeps your skin in place. All right? So, what does it look like? You get a bunch of these big...
Maybe try a different color. That one's kind of hard to see.
Okay. I'm trying to make it red. I don't think I have any reds. Oh well. Can you guys survive with an orange?
Yeah.
I got an orange over there, but okay. Okay. This is nasty. Can you see this or not?
We'll make do, yeah.
You sure?
Yeah, we're
You
good.
need to get any closer?
I think we'll be all right.
All right. So, we have all these big collagen fibers for strength. All right? Collagen. That's a protein for strength, okay? I mean, if I pinch my skin, does it break off in pieces? No, it holds on pretty tight, right? That's collagen.
Elastic.
You also have, in between, these little thin, and those are the elastin fibers. What do elastin fibers give us? Elasticity. So when you pinch your skin, it pops back into its original location. Cool beans? All right. And you also have little cells that make all of these fibers. And they are called fibroblasts. Make sense? Now, if you remember an earlier lesson, what are blast cells?
Building cells.
Building cells. So they're going to build these fibers. So let's just review. What do you think a chondroblast builds?
Cartilage.
Cartilage. What does an osteoblast build?
Bones.
What does a hemocytoblast build?
Hemoglobin? Or no,
Cells. Red cells.
Just red blood cells.
Yeah, blood cells. Yeah.
Okay.
Blood cells. And what's a myoblast going to build?
Muscle?
Muscle.
Yeah.
Got it? As I say to my students in class, if you know the prefixes and the suffixes, you can pretty much put them all together and figure out 50, 60 different words. Okay? All right. Everybody cool? Now, why do they call it loose? Well, can I see all of this white in between? Yeah, there's not fibers, it's just open space. But it's not hollow space, not a lumen, it's just a background. And we call that background the matrix. It's made of proteoglycans and glycoproteins, meaning proteins and sugars mixed together. But you can see the white in between. That's why it's loose connective tissue. All right? Now, let's take a look at dense connective tissue. We're going to have the exact same collagen fibers. Can you see any of that? Okay. Same collagen fibers. You're going to have a few fibroblast cells because they made it. But because of them being so thick, do you see a lot of matrix in between? You don't. That's why it's dense. Okay? Now, notice, are all these fibers going in the same direction? Yeah, they are kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, not perfectly, but, kind of in one direction. So they have a special name. They're called dense regular connective tissue. And what does dense regular connective mean? They're all going in the same direction. This comes from the old British soldiers. When they would fight, they would line up. And guess what they called? They were called British regulars. Got it? Hey, how's it going? Ace and everything? When's your next test? Next week.
Yeah.
Do good now. Do good. All right. Dense regular, okay, connective tissue. So, where do we find the areolar? In your dermis, around organs. Got it? Just to bind them and hold them in place. But this is different. This is your tendons and ligaments. Tendons and ligaments. All right? Now, what does a tendon hold together?
Muscle
To
to muscle.
no.
Oh, to bone.
Muscle to bone.
Oh, darn.
Okay. What's a ligament hold together?
Muscle to muscle.
No.
I'm sorry, bone to bone. I
Bone
don't
to
know where
bone.
I'm getting muscle.
That's all right. Okay?
Yep.
And notice, are all these tendons going in one direction? Yeah. So, it's strong in this direction. Can it handle this assault? And that's how you tear your ACL. Or you tear your Achilles tendon. Because you're hitting it from the side. It's not meant to take it from that side. Okay? Dense regular. Now, this is not part of your group, but the connective tissue here, can my shoulder go in different directions? Because of that, we call that dense irregular connective, because it's got collagen fibers going in lots of different directions, but that's not one of the ones on your list. Okay? That's 210 next semester. Fair enough? All right. The next thing on your list is adipose tissue. I misspelled it. Adipose. Adipose tissue is fat cells. That's just your fat. Okay? And it looks like this. A bunch of big yellow balloons with a little tiny nucleus scrumped up against one end. Okay? A big bunch of balloons. Either yellow or white, depending on how they were stained. All right? When they took the picture. Now, where am I going to find adipose tissue? In all the places we don't want it, right? Okay. So, we know where it's located, but what is its purpose?
Insulation.
Okay, two things. Insulation. That's why your penguins are kind of fat and your whales are kind of fat, right? Okay. And other things that are in cold water. but it's also long-term energy storage. We store up our fat for winter. That's why the grizzly bears and whatnot are eating in the fall so they can hibernate, because they lose about 60 to 80 pounds while they're hibernating. Why? Because they're slowly using all that fat to keep alive, but they better have plenty of it or they're not going to survive over the winter. Got it? And that's why we have this too, because back in the old days, you didn't know where your next meal was coming from. All right? Insulation, long-term energy storage. All good? Okay.
I'm good.
So those are your first part of your connectives. Then we have a couple more to go. All right, let me erase this. All righty. Okay, cartilage. Cartilage comes in 3 varieties, but they all look exactly alike. You have these ovals, which look like they have maybe 2 cells in them, okay? And what we have here, each of these is a chondrocyte, cartilage cell, in a lacuna, which is the little circle that they live in. Got it? And so sometimes you might see a lacuna like this, which only has 1 cell. Other times they've divided. Okay? So don't let that flip you out. If you see chondrocytes like this, and just a little bit of matrix, nothing special, no fibers or anything, just a bunch of background matrix. If that's all you see on the slide, oh, by the way, connective tissue, anything on top? No, it's in the middle, got it? This is your most abundant hyaline cartilage. Hyaline. Okay, that's your hyaline cartilage. Where do I find hyaline cartilage? It's the end of your nose. It is the end of your ribs before they go to your sternum. It is on the end of your long bone. So if you're eating a chicken leg, it's this connective to, it's that crunchy stuff on the end of your chicken leg, which people don't eat. That's all hyaline cartilage. All right? Okay, most abundant, found everywhere. All right? Now, let's do the next one. The next one is called elastic cartilage. I can't spell. Cartilage. See? Cartilage. Guess what elastic cartilage looks like? Just like hyaline, only what have I got going through here?
Elastin fibers.
Some elastin fibers. So when you see, everything looks the same except you got these black lines running through it. That's your elastic cartilage. And where is that? Your ear. Because you can bend your ear flat to your face. Can you bend your nose flat to your face? No. I can move it some, but I can't move it as well as my ear. All right? Now, the last one of the cartilages. Not the last one, period. But the last one of the cartilages. Again, I'm going to have chondrocytes in a lacuna. Okay? But they are sitting in a river of collagen fibers. Got it? All bunch of collagen fibers. So we've got the strong collagen fiber, but we know it's cartilage because we see these characters spread out inside it. Okay? And this very tough stuff is called, oops, I'll use the black one. Fibrocartilage. Okay? Fibro. Because it's full of collagen fibers. So this is the tough stuff. This is the toughest one. So where do we find this? Between the discs, the intervertebral discs of your vertebra. Because they have to take the pressure of every time you take a step. Okay? And for the ladies, it's the pubic symphysis. It's got to be tough when it's getting stretched to the baby out. Okay? So that's where you find your fibrocartilage. So under a picture, just the lacuna, and so just the chondrocytes in the lacuna with a matrix, hyaline. You see black lines, elastic. You see a bunch of collagen fibers. Now this is fibro. Cool beans? All right. And then we got a few more, and then we're done. Okay? Okay, after the cartilage, the one we need to know is bone, okay? Now, your bone, because it connects your body together, that's why it's called connective tissue. When you look at the histology, it looks like this. Okay? What does that remind you of?
Tree rings?
Tree rings. Got it? Which we call annual rings. Well, bone grows exactly the same way. We have our blood vessel in the middle, providing the oxygen and the glucose, and then your bone grows out in concentric circles. And in those circles are the actual bone cells. Those are the little bone cells, and they look like they're living in a little circle too, because we call those osteocytes in a lacuna. They got a little lacuna too, okay?
The lacuna is like a little dip.
A little dip that they live in, yeah. Actually, it looks like a dip when you cut it, but it's actually a circle.
Okay.
So it goes all the way around them. Like a little cocoon that they sit in, yeah, okay? But that's it. Osteocytes in a lacuna. And why should that not surprise us? Because guess what the precursor for bones is? Cartilage. Our long bones start as cartilage, then they get ossified and turned into bone cells. All right? Okay, the last of the connective tissues is blood. And we're going to keep it very simple here.
Real quick, did you mention what those are called?
According to our list, we don't have to.
Okay.
So I don't want to get people confused.
I got you.
But each of these rings is called a lamella. Lamella. And because they go round and around the same center, they're called concentric. Does that make sense? Concentric lamella. They go round and around and around. And this one here in the middle where the blood vessels are, that is called the, central canal is one way. Central canal. Okay?
Cool.
And they're named other things when you get to 210. So I don't want to get you too shocked yet. Alrighty? But hey, where do we get the word lamella from? If I put a layer of plastic on my paper to protect it, I have just laminated it. I put a layer of plastic on it because lamella means layer. It's a layer of bone. Okay? And yeah, you can pretty much tell every layer, that's how long you've been around. But don't forget, all of your bone cells only live for 10 years. Then they die and the next set gets created. So you're never going to have like 80 circles, like you're 80 years old. No. Okay? Trees, they do that, but not people. Fair enough? Okay. Now, when it comes to the blood, this is the simplest of all for this class. It'll be a little bit more difficult than 210 and 211. But if it's a red cell with like an indentation on the inside, that's your red blood cell. Can't miss it, it's red. Okay? If you have a cell, sometimes as big, sometimes bigger, but it has either a big nucleus inside like this, or it might have multiple nuclei like this. Those are your white blood cells, also known as leukocytes. And if you have this, little pieces of trash floating in between, that's not trash. Those are your platelets. Platelets, also known as thrombocytes, because the word cyte means cell, thrombus means blood clot.
Okay.
They make the clotting proteins. Now, what is the technical name for a red blood cell?
Erythrocyte.
Erythrocyte. And for a white blood cell, leukocyte. Okay? Stand for? All right. Well, that's the end of your connective tissue. So now all we have left is muscle and nerve. And we'll get that done in just a second. All right. Let's do our muscles. And again, I wish I had a darker red, but apparently I do not. Let me see. Because, muscles are red. Violets are blue. No, okay. That's a highlighter. That ain't gonna work. Yeah, of course, with my luck, I've only got a half used up pink. All right, we'll do the best we can. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
If all of your cells are lined up, okay, and they are striated, that's got alternating bands of red and white, and you have multiple nucleuses, this is your skeletal muscle. Skeletal, don't forget the word, muscle. You call this skeletal tissue, this ain't no skeleton. That's your osteocytes. This is skeletal muscle, alrighty? All lined up, multiple nuclei, striated. What's its function? Move your skeleton. Got it? Move these bones, move these bones. There? Okay. Next. Look at how these look. You see, they're striated, but they seem to split, don't they? They split off. They're branched. They're not lined up. Are they? No. So, They're striated, but they're also branched. Okay? Today was not a 1 cup of coffee day. It should have been a 2. All right. They're branched out. All righty? Plus, they have this. These things here separate the cells apart. These little black areas here that you can see are intercalated discs. That's where this cell attaches to this cell and this cell, and where this cell attaches and this cell attaches. Okay? That's where they attach. But they're not lined up. Got it? So this is your cardiac muscle. And gee, where's the only place that's found? The heart. Okay? Cardiac muscle. I'm reminded when I was at the eye doctor, she said, you can see all sorts of things in the back of your eye. And I said, yeah, I've heard that. She goes, well, I had a patient last week who had a heart attack a month earlier. And she goes, oh, I see you had a heart attack. And the guy goes, how do you know? She says, I see a piece of cardiac muscle floating in the back of your eye. And of course, like a dummy, I'm going like, how could you tell it was cardiac? I said, of course, because cardiac muscle is branched with these intercalated discs in it. That's how you can tell it's cardiac muscle. Okay? But when you have a heart attack, part of your muscle dies. And when it dies, it might get pulled into the circulatory system, and who knows where it's going to end up. All right? Okay. And the last muscle looks like this. With a nucleus inside every one of these. But they look kind of like this. Got it? Pointed on both ends. Do you see any striations here? No, there's no striations, so we call this smooth muscle. Got it? No little lines. Now, where do I find smooth muscle?
Organs?
Okay, all the organs that must squeeze. Okay? Organs that have to squeeze to move things around. So, it's your esophagus to squeeze the food. It's your stomach to squeeze the food. It's your small intestine and large intestine to squeeze the food on the way out. But it's also your aorta and large blood vessels to squeeze the blood. 10-4? And that's why it's smooth muscle, not skeletal muscle. All right, one more thing. Which one of these muscles is voluntary and which ones are involuntary?
Skeletal muscle is voluntary.
That's you can decide to do this. Got it? Can you tell your heart to speed up or slow down just by telling it? Involuntary. Can you tell your stomach or your intestines to speed up and slow down just by telling it? No. Also involuntary. Okay? All right. And last but not least are the nerves, and I'll just draw that right here. Is that okay? Can you see it?
Mm-hmm. I was going to say a darker.
Yeah,
darker
I'll use it black. Okay, so your nerves look like this. With a long axon and these little boutons on the end. So, these things sticking out have little growths on them. And these are the dendrites. This long thing is the axon, and these little buttons on the end are the axon terminals. This is what talks to a muscle, okay? But we could also have a nerve over here that sends his bouton to talk to another neuron. That's how nerves talk to each other. Okay? And these like I said, are meant for communication. It's incoming communication, sensory. Then in the middle of your brain or your spinal cord, we have the interneuron. Remember, inter means between. The interneurons make the decision. Is this something I need to work on? Is this important or do I ignore it? And then if it's important, it sends out a message on a motor neuron. Got it? So, oh, that's too hot. Motor neuron says, pull your hand out of the way. Oh, I'm so hot, I'm sweaty. The motor neuron tells your sweat glands to sweat. Got it? So, does that make sense? All right. And what makes your brain grow, before we get to the brain chapter, you see, you could have a neuron here with his axon going off the stage here. But guess what? His dendrites could talk to the other nerve's dendrites. That's called learning. You see, this is a one-way message, but this is a two-way message. And when the dendrites in your brain are talking to each other, that's how we communicate, that's how we learn. Okay? And we take our information and we put the auditory information in the auditory part of the brain and the kinesthetic information in the kinesthetic part of the brain. Okay? All right. And that's why when I ask my students, if you don't grow any more nerves, how come your brain is bigger now than it was when you were born? We've grown more. We've grown more dendrites. Got it? What we have is that this nerve right here, with his axon going over there, he's growing dendrites to talk over here. Got it? And since these dendrites have to go a certain distance, that's what makes your brain bigger. That's how come your brain is larger. You've got more dendrites talking to each other between, who knows, this guy might grow a dendrite out here, and this one grows a dendrite back to talk. Okay? And that's learning. When your dendrites communicate with each other. Okay? And because your brain is so full, it's not round like a bowling ball. We now have to have those gyri and sulky, right? Those bumps and stuff. Okay? Make room for it. How are we doing? Good?
Good.
That's the end of it. Thank you.